National Fire Radio.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Size Up by National Fire Radio, where what you do off the job matters. And as always, I'm always excited to host the podcast and to meet new folks, even to catch up with old friends or folks I've met before. But today is like super exciting episode because I have two guests. Only one of them is going to do most of the talking and the other one may disappear. And I'm just saying, like, if you're in your car driving to work, and you're listening to this, make sure you jump on either Instagram at some point soon, because I'll have the videos up there, or on YouTube, or if Sebi can get his stuff together, Sebi, I'm talking to you, and get us the Spotify video feed, however people are doing that on their podcast, you can see my second guest today, because she is being mostly patient right now with her mom. But I'm so stoked to have Monica Callahan and Oreo the fire dog on the show today. What is up, ladies?
Hello. Oh my goodness, I just got home, so she's a little crazy.
That's okay. That is totally okay for Oreo the fire dog. Mine is laying down by the door pouting, and we'll see if she can stay that way for the whole episode. But it's so cool to see you guys again. We met a few weeks ago at FDIC, and it's really hard when you're at FDIC. You want to meet everyone you possibly can, but seeing you and your husband and Oreo walking around, I mean, by far probably the most famous people at FDIC, if I had to say so
She
myself.
was well loved for sure.
And two, for the folks that are listening, and I'm going to let Monica obviously talk way more, but Oreo is a Dalmatian, a purebred Dalmatian for sure, from what I can tell. And Monica also has one of the coolest backgrounds I've ever had on a show before. Sorry to all my other guests, but she has a wall painted with Dalmatian spots. So that's a wall painted, right?
Yes, I actually painted it. I was very proud of myself.
It looks amazing. You know, one of my family's COVID projects is we did a oh my god, I don't even know what it's called, but we painted half of one of our rooms with different shapes and tape, and like, yeah, that was a COVID project for sure, and it got us through. But I will never do it again is a good way to put it. I think you probably will agree, maybe with the Dalmatian wall there.
Yeah, I probably don't have time right now to do it again. Luckily, right when we moved, I had the time, so I was like, I need to get this done now.
It looks great, though. I will say that. So and it's very, very on point, very on brand, which again, I'm guessing as we get more into your story, you probably never thought in your life you'd be like, I need to be on brand with the Dalmatian wall, right?
Well, I did always love them, but yes, to be where I'm at now, never would have thought.
Right. And I definitely feel that way too, getting to host the podcast here and all the things I've kind of done in the fire service. And was this your first year at FDIC, or had you been there in the past?
It was. So we had actually planned on coming in 2020, but then COVID happened.
Gotcha. And all that was going on. So, you know, you land at FDIC is just an easy way to talk about it, because again, that's where we met. But you know, you're surrounded by firefighters, and here you are walking the hallway with Dalmatian, one of the most iconic firefighter figures out there.
Yeah.
Like, let's just, before we even get into your backstory, what was that experience like? Because I can only imagine, but I'm sure it's great.
It was a lot of fun. I think, especially for me, I like it because therapy dogs are such a big thing now, but not a ton of them are Dalmatians, and a lot of people don't think that they can do it. And so it just makes it a little extra special, especially because of how my husband and I met and stuff like that. So, it was extra special. I loved, seeing grown men smile and baby talk to your dog is probably the cutest little thing ever.
Right. So it's so like, and again, I saw her, right? And I started, baby talking to the dog, and mine was staring at me. So folks that listen to the show all the time know that I have a dog who does not make many appearances, but sometimes you hear her in the background. She is an interesting breed because she is half pit bull, half Dalmatian.
Okay. Yeah.
That is a combination that I do not recommend anyone do, create, own, as much as I love her. And she is my girl. Hello, Clarice is a handful, is the easiest way to put it. And ferocious looking. So there's a very easy way to put it, where like you have the energy of the Dalmatian with the ferociousness of the pit bull. and the poor Amazon dude's like playing football from my lawn to throw the package at the door because
Yeah.
she's gonna kill them.
Poor girl. She's just misunderstood.
100, yeah, that's exactly what we say too. But she is a great girl, and so I'll even give you a little more on me, and then we're gonna definitely get into your story. But I did own a Dalmatian. My first adult dog was a Dalmatian that landed to me and my girlfriend at the time because someone adopted her and ended up being allergic. And then we found out the reason this Dalmatian was passed around to so many people was because she had cancer. And we got a couple years with Casey there, a little over a year or two. But she was an older dog, so it was really good for like a bunch of college dudes to just
Okay.
have a chill dog in the house.
Yeah.
But Dalmatians are definitely known for their energy.
Hmm.
And we weren't going to look at a Dalmatian that day. We were looking. My friend works with a pit bull rescue. We were in a more crazy way because why would I do anything not crazy? we we were going to look at a mastiff pit bull mix,
Okay.
and he was a very large dog. And my younger son was I think 3 or 4 at the time, and the dog took his butt and pinned him up against the wall in a way that like my son just couldn't move the dog, and the dog had no clue. It wasn't like a ferocious thing, it was just he was happy, and my son like had his legs on the wall trying to push, and he's like, Ote, all right, as like the air is getting pushed out of his chest from this
Oh,
dog's large rear end. And we were like, yeah, this dog's just not for us. And
yeah, you
then
don't think it's gonna work.
not going to work as much as I wanted that dog.
Mm.
Like, but that same day, little Clarice was there. All of 14 pounds of her, she fit in my forearm, and the rest is kind of history for us, I guess. Which I'm sure you hear stories like this all the time about people getting dogs, right?
I love them. It makes me smile. One of our dogs is a rescue, so our other Dalmatian is a rescue. So
Okay, so how many dogs do you have?
we have 4.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
So 2 Dalmatians and 2 that are called wind sprites. So they're like whippets.
So there's just all kinds of energy happening in your house 24/7, 365.
4 dogs, 2 kids, and a husband.
It's always an adventure, I'm sure, then.
Oh yes.
So let's go back a little bit. I went on babbling about myself, but it's kind of I do love dogs so much, and we're going to talk more about dogs. But let's go back to you and kind of you said like what began your love for the breed and your love for dogs, and kind of how you got into the place you are today.
Mm. So I'm always a dog lover. Originally wanted to be a vet. Don't we all at that age, right?
No, no, I
But
wanted to be a fireman.
well, there you go. So did my husband, so I get that. But yeah, I always wanted a dog. My parents aren't really animal people. So I begged and begged, and finally, when I was 12, my brother's girlfriend at the time's parents were getting rid of their dog because one of their other dogs died, and it was a Dalmatian. And so I begged, and they agreed. And she was probably, if I would have known about therapy work then, she would have been a phenomenal therapy dog. She was perfect. But I got her when I was 12, and I met my husband when we were 14, and he wanted to be a fireman. So it kind of went hand in hand, and I thought that was adorable. So yeah,
So there
I
was
mean,
a little bit of like cosmic in the air there. Like
right.
he was probably like, oh, that girl is a Dalmatian. Let me go talk to
Uh,
her. This could work out for me.
although I think now he's a bigger fan of the Dalmatians than even I am. I have to
It's
tell him, no, we cannot get another one.
so a Dalmatian is an interesting breed, and you're definitely going to have the facts, and I'm not. So maybe you can kind of spill that out there a little bit, because again, owning one and a half of them, and kind of just knowing a little bit more about them, they're very interesting.
They are. And people are, the number one things we always hear on therapy visits are, I heard they're aggressive, and I hear they're crazy hyper. And they're not hyper. I mean, my rescue, because he didn't come from the best of places, struggled with that a little bit more. But out of the 5 that we've owned through my life, they're not hyper, they're active. So
That's so nice. That's like that bless his heart saying in the
right,
South
and
there.
and
Like it's a good
they
way to
can do
say it.
anything, and that's why I love them, is the versatility of these dogs, because we do dog sports. I'm a runner, so they help me train for my marathons. And 2 weekends ago, Orio just did what's called a road trial because these dogs were bred to coach next to horses. So run next to horses. She just did 25 miles next to a horse. And
Holy cow.
that's kind of how they got started in the fire, was running next to the carriages, and looking flashy like they do. So
See, I
I
never
think
heard the looking flashy part, but I definitely the carriage dog and the fact that they would, from what I understand, is that they would do a few things. They would bark to clear the way for the horses, and then while the horse was at the fire, they would lay in front of the horse. So if there was a loud explosion or something fell, the horse would get spooked and take off, which would be very detrimental to the operation in the fire service. But if the dog laid in front of the horse would not spook. Is that true or
pretty much, yeah, they did a little bit of the guarding of the horses too. But it's true. I've heard plenty of stories of people that take them out on the trail when they're trail riding with their horses, and it actually helps calm the horses down, seeing the dogs ahead, so that they know, hey, nothing's out there, nothing's going to get me, because they are a spooky animal. But yeah, the flashy thing my husband told me is back in the industry when people used to contract out fire departments, because I guess they used to bid and
sure?
pay
Yep.
for that. They kind of helped make them flashy so that people would want to contract with their fire departments.
See, smart businessmen on the fire service side, kind of like we have today, and all these fire-owned businesses and the way they're doing it. Like I could totally see that. Like if you're selling your fire services and be like, here I am with this flashy dog. You want to pick me, not the non-dog guy, like not the guy with the cat or anything like that. Like
Yep.
you want the
So
flashiness.
yeah.
I didn't know people. So it's weird, and I've talked about this before, but I do live in horse country, New Jersey,
Okay.
where the area I am in New Jersey, we run into people riding horseback all the time on the back roads here.
Oh, that's
I didn't know about the dogs though. I knew about hunting, or they
mhm.
would have dogs for hunting, but I just didn't know about trail riding with dogs.
It's probably not as common anymore. But yeah, we have a dog sport that is very small. Unfortunately, I wish more people could get into it, but we actually do a field obedience on horseback with the dogs, and then go on a 12 or 25-mile trail ride. So, just kind of, and people can do it with any breed. It doesn't have to just be Dalmatians, but there's always that, history.
Sure, and you always have too, like you mentioned, like when you hear about a breed, like a Dalmatian being aggressive or hyper, is definitely hyper is they do have a lot of energy, I will say that, or even pit bulls being aggressive and the nature they have. Listen, if you come in my house and my boys are here and you're have ill intentions, Clarice is definitely going to be very aggressive to you. I can almost guarantee that one because she's very protective of our house, of our quiet little cul-de-sac,
Hmm.
and really wants to catch a bunny, but it's just never going to happen. But a lot of it also comes down to like I've had Clarice since she was a puppy,
Hmm.
and she is loyal to us. And really, that upbringing, even with a hyper dog, can
Hmm.
probably have a lot to do with it, right?
Yeah. And I mean, look at what they're bred for. I mean, Dalmatians, part of it, were guarding the horses. So they are bred to be a little bit more independent and kind of make those choices on, is it friend or foe? Now, they should never, per the breed standard, they should never be aggressive, but they can be a little standoffish,
Sure.
and question things. So they're a little bit like, let me bark at you once or twice until I know that you're okay. And so I do think that's why you don't see them as much in therapy work, is because it does take a lot of work. And I can even see a difference if I'm not constantly working with her and getting her out, a couple times a week. I can even start to see her kind of be like, Mo, I don't know if I really, trust everything going on now.
Yeah.
So she's very environmentally aware at all times. But that's why it comes back to me and how we handle and making sure that she's comfortable and getting her out of situations that she's uncomfortable for. So,
Which is such a great topic to kind of bring up too, because again, as a firefighter, as a EMT paramedic, we go into people's houses. Sometimes when they're not there, their
mm-hmm.
animals are there, and how you react around their animals. Like I've worked with folks that were totally afraid of dogs for whatever reason, childhood trauma, or
Yep.
whatever you can think of. We'd walk in on the EMS call, they would take off, and the dog would react to something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where like you have to, as a provider, really adjust your stance and how you're going to be, because that dog, very early on in my EMS career, we had an injured blind person who had a seeing eye dog,
Mm,
and it was a unique experience for all of us. And luckily, the person wasn't their medical emergency; they were able to still communicate with us. But a lot of the care for that patient was really, how are we going to do this with your dog? And is your dog going to let us do this? And is your dog going to come in the ambulance with us? And what are we going to do? Like, I can vividly remember being this young EMT, like, holy cow, this is going to be interesting. But it was also kind of cool because once we developed that relationship with the animal, we were like best of friends for our short little ambulance ride. And then we had to do the same thing all over again in the hospital.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So we actually raised a couple of their leader dogs for the blind. So that was an experience, and it's really cool to see those dogs do the work that they're bred to do. But those are definitely things you have to take into account in those situations.
And it's that end too that, like, sure, they're an animal, but they also have emotions. They also have feelings. They also react. And people don't think about that, and even with you at FDIC, like, I know when you were over by our booth and I said the same thing, but I saw so many people saying, like, can I pet your dog?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just, because I think as a society, we've gotten so used to seeing service animals way more and kind of
Yep.
understanding or working animals, the same as like a police dog. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
just don't walk up, or a police horse, you just don't walk up and start petting that animal because it's not what you're supposed to do. Me as a child never learned those lessons because we didn't see them as much.
Yeah.
My boys now know it. So I'm sure that has to do with your community as well, and your outreach.
Yes, for sure. And I always tell people, thank you for asking. You can pet, because I do, especially for kids. They're just a run up first, ask questions later. So I love seeing parents be proactive and say, oh, wait, wait, wait. We have to ask first. One of our big visits is actually to the Myrtle Beach Airport, is our main gig that I started a couple of years ago. So we had to get her a really big sign that said, please pet, because most people don't think
Yeah.
they can. So it's really nice to see that people are picking up on that. And they would still even ask, is it okay? Like, are you sure? Like, yes, you can pet her. Thank you
you
for
can
asking.
totally you can totally do it, but again, you don't always necessarily know, and it's a great thing for any animal there when you encounter an animal with a person, whether they be a professional handler or just me walking Clarice. Like, most
Mhm.
people look at her when we walk and they're like, I'm not gonna pet her. Like, i'm just
Oh,
I'm just not gonna, it's just not gonna, we're just gonna keep walking by, but you do get, with little kids, and I'm always like, sure, but make sure you pet her butt, not her face, because
yep.
again, she does have pit bull in her, and there is a lockjaw element to that. And I'd just rather you pet her butt than her face. It would just be better, like, for all of us involved. Like, I have to be the responsible owner as well, right?
Yeah, and most dogs honestly don't like being pet on the top of their heads. They may tolerate it, but it's not most dogs' favorite places to be pet. And you'll kind of see just little subtle body signs that they'll tolerate it because I love you or for whatever reason. But most either like underneath or on the sides or the butt.
Oh, the butt rubs are just, the
Orio
butt
loves
rubs
the
are right there. Like,
butt.
all
Yep.
right. So again, this is, the podcast never goes in any type of order, but last time I checked, you were 14 and you got a Dalmatian and you met your husband, who happened to want to be a firefighter,
Yep.
and you
So
wanted to be a vet. So where do we go from there? Is that a good
from
way to put it?
there, we dated all through high school. I went and got accepted to a pre-vet program, and he joined the military and immediately got deployed. So there I was going through college. We got married right before he left, so it was just a little court thing at 18. Um, he came back. I finished my degree. He started and finished his. In 2012, he got deployed again, and I got pregnant right before he left. And at that point, I decided I didn't want to be a vet anymore. I didn't want to do the schooling anymore.
Which is totally understandable. I
No,
had a
it's
recent guest who's a firefighter now, Hannah, and she wanted to be a vet, then became a veterinary nurse, which I didn't even know existed, more in the large animal realm of things, which I did know existed about large animals. I didn't know veterinary nursing programs were so intense. Um, but she had that end too, where it was just got to be too much, and I have a
yeah,
friend whose daughter is about to become a vet, and I can't even tell you how long she's been in school. Like, can't even
yeah.
keep up.
by the time I graduated, it was like, look, we're ready to just kind of start doing our thing and, going through school. I think he graduated around then too. And so then we found out he was getting deployed again. So that was about 6 months after I graduated. And so we were like, hey, and I had gone through the dog training program that I went through. I got it as a gift for graduation from my parents. So I was finishing up that, and we decided, hey, maybe kids are in our future. So we said, okay, we've got 2 weeks. We'll give it a go. And right before he deployed, and voila.
That's how the magic happens, just like that sometimes, right? But again, that's another hard thing to do too, to say like, I want to have a family, I want to be a vet, and you have to kind of make that choice at that time. And I'm sure it was not an easy one per se, because you had wanted to be a vet for so long, but looking at the overall time commitment, that's a big choice to make then.
Yep. Yeah. We definitely made choices. Would I do it differently? Probably not. Life happens. I don't regret things. We make the best of what we can. So there we go.
And that's the best way to look at it too, right? And listen, veterinary school, for anyone listening, from what I know, from what Hannah said, it is not like easy at all. Like I've even heard it compared to saying like it's harder than medical school in some aspects, because again, your patient can't tell you what's wrong with them.
Yeah. Well, and to get in, we have so few vet schools. It's ridiculous to get in. It's harder than med school. So,
and then comes the next step too, is like, you just don't leave vet school with a job.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that end of it. You have to either find to purchase into an already established practice or start your own practice.
Yep.
And then there's two, also deciding, do you want to be like a small animal vet or a large animal vet type thing?
Because there's not many of those around anymore.
Which one, the large animal or?
Yeah, that's definitely, if you go into vet school saying that you want to do that, you definitely, I think, get a little bit more of a priority than wanting to, because they're just so needed.
See, again, I'm learning things left and right out here, because I do know someone who's a vet, but she is a small animal vet, but has done kind of all of it. And then there's also the exotic animal vets, which is even cool to watch on TV, at least.
Oh my gosh. Going crazy with her toy back there.
Listen, good for her. Like that's like the happiest time of life, right? Like, and normally mine would be trying to get me to play, but for some reason she's just by the door, and we're gonna leave her right there for now and go from that, right?
There you go.
You said your parents got you kind of an animal handler class or a dog handler class, and kind of what led to that, wanting to kind of go that route?
I got my second and third Dalmatian while we were in college. Which kind of goes hand in hand with, people don't think that you can have dogs when you live in apartments. And I successfully had 2 Dalmatians, which are known to be higher energy, in an apartment. We had no yard. But, that it took a lot off of me. I wasn't a drinker. We weren't partiers. Like if I wasn't doing that, if I wasn't at school, I was with my dogs. And so I got really into training and the type of training that I do, and, really just enjoyed the behavior aspect, because I was also taking a psychology class in school. And so behavior just really got my, attention, and I really enjoyed it. So I started looking into different schools and kind of found one that I agreed with, because unfortunately there are no standards in dog training. Anyone can call themselves a dog trainer. So it was important to me to make sure that I felt like I was doing it right and seeing dog training where I would like it to go. So yeah, I did that and graduated from there, and pretty much found out I was pregnant, graduated, and then started my business all within like 3 months. So
there you go. I mean, that's the way to go, right? And just kind of go from there. And it's interesting too, like, because again, like certifications for whatever. I mean, licensure versus certification, whether it's EMS, fitness, the dog training world, you have to do your research to find what program works for you and what even person you're going to connect with, right? Like a teaching style almost.
Yep, for sure. So, and I actually used to teach. I've done many different things, but I didn't get into running until after I had kids. And then I got into running and fitness. And so then I ended up teaching like a dance fitness class for a while, and considered looking into different personal training things, decided I didn't want to go that route. But yeah, same thing. There are different organizations. There's not really a standard of this is what you need to do and when. And so it's just kind of deciding on what you feel is the right way for you to go.
Yeah, and that's a big deal, right? Because it has to work with you or you're not going to be successful at it.
Mm-hmm.
And you may actually start in one and be like, nope, this way is not for me. I need to go to a different way or something along those lines.
Yep.
I always thought it was cool. So I work in a college town and I used to work for their EMS organization. And one of the guys that was an EMT there with me, he was in a program with the college where they were training seeing eye dogs prior to them going to seeing eye dog school.
Mm-hmm.
So we had varsity in the station with us all the time. And unfortunately, I think varsity failed. I think varsity failed his first. Yeah, it was probably a lot of our fault as well, but I do think varsity eventually passed and got to go to become a real seeing eye dog, if I recall. I mean, we're going back 25 years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just cool to see that interaction and kind of learn a little bit about that life that you're definitely involved in. So what
Mm-hmm.
are some of the things that really go into being a successful dog trainer that you think, or dog handler?
I think having the experience before you get to the point of saying you are, I think it's important to work with people who know are currently doing it so that you can get those hands-on experiences and, learning how to, because every breed is different. Every dog is different. People think that, oh, I'm going to get this breed and it's going to be like this. And that's not always the case. There are outliers in every breed. So I think it's important to just get those experiences. And then I think it's a great idea to actually get a good psychology class behind you because that's where it all comes from. And like I tell people, we all learn the same, all animals learn the same. But there's different ways that, our motivations are different. We have the ability to think. So while I can sit here and also train my kids kind of the same way that I train my dogs, it's different because I can talk to my kids and I can't talk to my dogs. I mean, I can, but they don't understand what I'm
They
saying.
definitely don't understand. Even though you really think they understand what you're saying, and I talk all the time to her, she's got no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
Like there's just nothing. Although sometimes when I talk to the boys, they both, especially in the teenage years, I'm like, "Hello, you're a blank slate. Like, come on, man. I just spent 5 minutes talking.
I
What do you
know.
got for me?"
There's almost 12. I'm not looking forward to it.
Oh, we're cresting 14 here, and I think Mrs. Pip may he may not make it to 15 with her if I'm not around enough. Let's just say so.
My
It's good
husband's
times. It's good
giving her
times parenting, but it really is. It's weird because there'll be people on the internet that are gonna like blow us up because it's like you're comparing parenting to dog ownership and this that the other thing, right? But again, it's communication skills and
Yep.
it's how you talk to them, right? If I induct my dad voice, whether it be to my boys or the dog, they both kind of get what's going on. Like they've kind of gone to a level that they didn't want to get me to is a good way to put it, right?
Oh, for sure. And I always say that I'm a better dog trainer than I am a kid person trainer because I can have a lot more patience with my dogs than I do my kids. And I think patience is a big part of being a good trainer.
For sure.
Or parent.
In anything. Patience is huge in being, because you're really like, and we use the term dog trainer, but it's like an instructor or an educator, right? You have to have patience. I mean, I just watched a video with you and Oreo where you were trying to get her to crawl and she was successful and then she wasn't. And then she
Yep.
was successful and then she wasn't. And it's could be very frustrating for you. Just like if, you're trying to teach someone in the fire service to tie a knot or do something and they're just not getting it. But if I lose my cool, that's not going to help them at all. And it's the same with Oreo, probably.
Yep. And the way I see training is if she's not successful, I have to help her be successful. So, kind of in that video you're watching, I think I pushed her too far. So I started scooting her a little closer to help her be successful and setting her up for success. So that's a big part in dog training. I think a lot of people miss is if your dog's continuing to make mistakes, how can you make them successful to get those good reps in and then make it harder once they can tolerate it? So, yeah.
Oh my God, that is such a great line for anyone out there trying to teach anything, because that's your job, right? Your job is to make them be successful. And
Mhm.
just because they're not doesn't mean it's their fault. You may just need to alter the way you're teaching them.
Yep.
And with a dog, it's listen, Clarice, that's what I got. I was really happy with that. And that's where we ended our training, but she could
There
do
you
it.
go.
Like it's pretty good. I'll take it.
Yep.
But that was also my choice to be like, we're not training this dog to do anything. Like I have two
Yep.
small kids, a dog. I'm happy. Everybody's happy in life, and this is where we're going. But again, to get into being a service dog,
Hmm.
which I guess is that the proper title? Am I
So there's service dogs and therapy dogs, and they're
okay?
different. Yep.
Okay, let's go through that then, because now that I said it, I realize it. But yeah, let's go
Uh,
through that. How does that work?
So service dogs are dogs that do something to mitigate a disability. So you're seeing eye dogs because they're helping someone who can't see. There's hearing dogs that can alert people to noises that they can't hear. They can detect low blood sugar. They can detect seizures. They can detect passing out. They can do all kinds of things. Your basic dogs that can pick things up if you can't, things like that. So the dog does not have access rights, but the human does for the dog. So as long as
Okay.
the dog is with that human, they're allowed to go anywhere that human is allowed to go. And so a lot of people contact us saying, oh, I want my dog to be a therapy dog so they can go everywhere with me. And that's not what a therapy dog is. I know, I have your first So therapy dogs have to be invited in. They don't have access rights. And their only job is just to help people feel better. And so they don't have to do any specific behaviors like a service dog would. But what the biggest thing we look for in therapy dogs are that they actually enjoy visiting with people, because there are a lot of people that want to do the job, but the dog necessarily does not. And so I think that's a big part of what I feel like my job is as a tester observer for our organization, is making sure the dogs are enjoying the work.
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, right? Because it's just going to be better at what it's doing.
Yep.
So before we get too far down the road in therapy dogs, because I know that's probably where we're going to spend more time though. But with a service dog, just because I have a question now,
Yep.
is it more breed specific? When that specific things, like there's a dog that can sense the seizure better than another, or
Um,
or,
I would
or
say
any are in that
so much
range.
for that, possibly. I think your average breeds that kind of aim to please, so that's kind of what they were more bred to do. So your retrievers, your dogs that are meant to work with someone might have a little bit more. They tend to, I would say, right now in the service dog world, you're really looking at some of your Goldens, your Labs. They're actually doing a lot of breeding between the two, so Golden Labs. And I would say there are some doodles, so like your Labradoodles and your Golden Doodles that they're kind of breeding for. So those dogs that just kind of tend to have more of that people-pleasing attitude, that are a little bit more laid back and willing to work around a lot of distractions, don't really have too much of that guardy behavior, because then they're just kind of always on high alert. But there's always outliers. Like I said, I've known service dog Dalmatians, I've known service dog German Shepherds, Poodles, some people are even lucky enough to be able to go to the shelter and get a dog and end up having it be a service dog. So, at the end of the day, there's a high washout rate in service dogs. And
I was
so
just
if
thinking that.
anybody ever wants to work on that with me, that's the first thing I tell them is, there's a 60 to 70% chance this dog you get for this work does not end up getting to do the work. So you better have a backup plan for the
Well,
dog.
a lot of times, or correct me if I'm wrong, but like, so if I needed a service dog for a specific reason, I could go to an organization that's already been past the washout phase and get that dog for
Yeah,
whatever reason I needed to, right?
yeah, and you may have to wait a bit. Sometimes the wait can be quite a bit, but yeah, there are good organizations out there that do the work. Some of them, depending on your disability, might potentially even be a nonprofit and be able to give you the dog for free, or you might have to help with fundraising a bit to get the dog. But yeah, there are organizations out there.
And then just because this popped into my head, service dog and working dog, is that the same, or is a working dog more thought of like in military, law enforcement, fire type?
I would say when people say working dog, they probably mean kind of like your police canines, your military dogs. But to me, working dog is, does that dog have a job and is it doing the job? So I would even potentially say that therapy dogs can be a working dog, service dogs can be working dogs. So I think it just depends on who's saying it.
Gotcha. Listen, Monica, it's 2024 here at the Size Up. We want to be all inclusive to
There
all
we go.
titles, and anyone is welcome, and including all the different dogs out there. And
There you
I
go.
don't want to get blown up on the internet for missing a name or anything like that. Just trying to include everyone.
Good job.
Um, it's pretty cool too that I just, again, things pop into my head like crazy because that's the way my head works. But when I got hired in my department, we had a working dog in our inspections division,
Nice.
who could sense accelerants and things like that at
Yep.
a scene. And he was pretty cool. It was pretty cool when we had him in the department, and just different things that he did.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, he passed away a few years after I got hired, as did his handler. They were both in New York on 9/11, and both suffered post cancer from 9/11, which was, again, at the time that this all happened, that was like brand new to be learned about, and that this was happening.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool, and I feel like a total tool because I don't remember the dog's name. I do remember the handler's name, the inspector's name, though. But
Yep.
it was just one of those things that it was a cool introduction, to that world of, wow, this dog can find. And to his credit, he caught, that I can think of, like not just in my city, but probably 2 or 3 arson suspects,
That's so
that
cool.
we were able to that they were able to eventually catch, because he would be on loan for the whole area, so they were
Mhm.
going out all the time.
I would love to do that. That's like a dream job right there. I love scent work and all that stuff. We do that just for fun. But yeah, I think that job would be amazing.
Well, you see it more and more too, because it's interesting too, and especially, not like the Northeast is not known for being proactive when it comes to trying new things in the fire service. So we were fairly proactive, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, when they hired him to do this, or when Frank was able to make this happen. But it's cool to see it growing, because I feel like with social media, you see more and more um, working dogs in the fire service.
Yeah, I know. You've given me 3 frisbees. I'm putting them all behind my back.
See, but so with that too, so Oreo is just totally wants to play right now. Like you said, you were gone this morning and you came home, and she was very excited to see you. And I think that's something to be said too, that all these dogs are really just dogs that want to have fun with their family.
Oh yeah.
However, they put on their work hat right when they have to work.
Yep, she does for sure. And that's all I hear is she's so calm. I've never seen a Dalmatian that calm. And most of the time I tell people, give her a frisbee and you'll see. We worked really hard on my dogs being calm all the time, but
There's
they
been
can be crazy.
hours and hours of training for this. Now, does she work, and again, all over the place, but she works for reward, or, right? Because isn't there like a treat based reward, or,
Yeah, so in our training and sports and stuff, yeah, we use food, we use toys. Her therapy dog work, honestly, she just, oh my goodness, really enjoys people. So, and that'll be hard. I don't really feed her too much while we're visiting because then she's all about the food.
well, who isn't? So we can't blame her. Like, I'm not gonna lie, if you put good food in front of me, I'm gonna be all about the food too, and not my job, maybe. So there's nothing. Don't be ashamed, Oreo. Don't let mom shame you and food shame you like that, right?
She's like, I don't.
But I think that that's, again, things that it's cool to learn a little bit more about and more about. And you talk about agility, and I know there's some ribbons behind you.
Yeah.
So does she also compete? You actually said sports. I know agility is a dog sport.
Oh my goodness. Okay. You are gonna get. I'm putting her out. Come here, you
No
crazy.
worries, no worries. These things happen, right? We have to. Oreo needs to get some energy out, so she's gonna have to listen to me
There
talk
we go.
about dogs and things. But
Right.
she's very happy.
So she has not done agility. I've done agility in the past with another one of my Dalmatians, but she does rally, she does obedience, she does scent work, she does frisbee.
What's
We did
rally? I
a
don't know
little bit
what
of
rally is.
conservation, the pretty much the thing you see on TV on Thanksgiving. So yeah, we've done a little bit of everything.
I mean, it's always fun too to know. Like again, I thought we were just going to talk about being a therapy dog this whole time. So we've really got the surface running for all the different things you do. And I don't know how you have so many hours in the day.
I hear that a lot.
But the therapy thing to me is so interesting because again,
Mhm.
it is fairly new in the world, I guess, and you like 10 years or so, maybe. Am I
Oh, it's been around a long time. I would say it's
or the
really
popularity
gotten
of it?
really popular probably within the last 10 to 15 years.
Sure, because we see them more. My wife is a physician assistant. She works in a hospital, and like,
Hmm.
she's like, "Oh, it's Wednesday. Gordon will be at the hospital today," and I'm like, "Who's Gordon?" Like, then it's this therapy dog. Oh, it's Thursday. Shelby will be there. Hopefully, I'll get to run into Shelby. Or like, she
I
works in
love that.
palliative. She works in palliative care, and a lot
No,
of times she's able to get people's real dogs into the hospital to
no.
see them, or she's like, I got in touch with Shelby's handler, and it's totally not Shelby, but I'm just using a dog name that it could be, and it'll be like she's visiting today, and I'm so excited,
Aw.
and you get to experience that as the handler, but maybe talk a little bit about how those types of visits with folks really affect you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and everything I do is pretty much it's all volunteer, and so they don't pay anything. We do it on our free time. My husband's actually a handler for Oreo too, so getting to see him do it too is really fun. But I think I get a lot from it too. So not only are we helping people, but I enjoy getting to visit people. I enjoy getting to meet different people, and knowing that we made your day a little bit brighter, and that makes me feel good. Um, I don't like to think that I'm a people pleaser, but it makes me feel really good when people just feel better. And I know that I had a little part in that, and so I think that not only does my dog get something from it, you get something from it, but it really does. I don't know. I enjoy
I
it.
mean, it's such a great feeling, and now we're seeing it. We are seeing the return of firehouse dogs, let's just say, in all the emergency services, whether it be military, police, EMS, fire, where either departments are actually putting a dog in the firehouse with everyone, or they're having a therapy dog come in for all the shifts because it does take a grown person and turn them into a small child immediately, right?
Yep, for sure. And especially my husband has PTSD, and anxiety, depression, and so knowing how much he gets from her, is a big difference. And so it could even be, even if you don't own the dog, just that little bit of time to just spend with the dog and hang out with. Sometimes I don't say a word. Sometimes they just pet the dog, they look up at me and say thank you and continue on their way.
Right? It's that couple of seconds of like, you're not, I'm not going to say at work I'm like tense all the time, right? But
Mhm.
there is always a stress level of what could occur, when that
Mhm.
alarm goes off. And you're all in that alert mode. And
Mhm.
when you see a dog come in, and we've never had a therapy dog come in my department. However, several times in my career, we've either just had a dog appear at the door or we've come back from a call and there's a dog tied up to the door.
I know.
And that dog literally takes my entire shift into its, next thing you know, the dog's on the couch and you're like, wait, we didn't even, we can't put this dog on the couch, but it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
We're all like, and a few of the dogs guys have actually adopted, other
No.
times, whatever we can do with it to get the dog help or
Yeah.
animal control comes. But it's that feeling of, oh my God, let's help this dog. It's even if you're in the rig and you see a dog running loose in the street. I had a lieutenant, I was on the car. They're like chasing the dog in the engine. I'm like, oh my God, they're in pursuit. Like, how do we do this? But you see that change in us that
Mhm.
allows you to just, it just makes you happy, I guess is a good way to put it, right?
Yep. Little bit of not work related stuff. You get to smile at a dog, you get to pet it, so obviously those levels of cortisol are going down, your blood pressure is going down when you're petting, and yeah, great stuff.
There's your psychology class tied in with the medical end of like all the things that you're telling me now. Cause I'm like, really? It makes my blood pressure go down?
It does.
It just makes me feel better, right? And I love that aspect of it. And it's just to me, it's such a cool thing to see, especially with the tradition in the fire service of having carriage dogs.
Mm-hmm.
departments. And look, I'm not saying like guys in my department are like, we should get a dog. And I'm like, man, we can barely wash the rigs. Like, I don't know if we should get
I
a
know
dog. I have a dog. Like, it does take a lot, right?
it
But,
does.
having the ability to have a therapy dog come in, once a month and kind of visit with everybody,
Yep.
it just kind of takes the added responsibility of having multiple owners for a dog, which could
Yes.
always be a problem, right?
That's the hard part. That's the hard part. And I have worked with one department in particular that wanted to bring on a dog for themselves, and I've talked to a few others about it. And it's a slippery slope, and you have to know exactly what you're doing and have a really good plan before you start it. Because yes, they tried to have a different handler every shift, and I'm like, look, this is not working.
Yeah. It's really hard. I can imagine. I can just imagine how we communicate between the four shifts now. How are we gonna
Keep
how
things
are we
the
gonna do this?
same, it's
Yeah.
it's very hard.
Yeah, there would be some, and the dog would probably be quite well nourished. Let's just say I can only imagine on that end of it too. But those are all things that, again, even if you're looking to purchase a dog, you have to really think about how you're going to do all these things. And there is a better solution of having a therapy dog come in. So are you getting more requests for that for Oreo or any of your pups to come in?
Um, I would say so. We moved to Myrtle Beach from Cleveland, Ohio in 2021. And then now we're down in Charleston. We just moved here in November. And so my big thing, along with trying to get my business started and everything, is I always would love to visit with the fire departments if possible, or the police departments or anything like that. I didn't push too hard. I probably could have gotten in touch with more people, but you know, on and off, we'd kind of be like, oh, we're having this event. Can she come? And so we would go do that. But we never really did routine department visits. I would have loved to. And I'm still kind of pushing for it here. I just think that you guys are so busy focusing on other things that it kind of falls to the
Sure,
side of it,
for sure.
which is fine. It's going to happen. Could I push more about it? Sure, probably. But yeah.
Well, what we see in the emergency service too is we are very reactive when it comes to health and wellness and our mental health and wellness and things. Like, I'm very, very proud to say that we are in my department, we are using our resources post incident way more now than we ever have in my career. Again, this is one of those preemptive strikes that if we had a therapy dog coming in every once and again, and we're just not there yet as
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
department or even as a service overall, but it's cool to know and for people like you to be out there, because yeah, you're a resource in the Carolinas, but I'm sure resources throughout the
Mhm.
country at this point, especially with
Yeah.
the social media page.
Well, and my organization, I'm actually on the board for Alliance of Therapy Dogs. So we have over 18,000 teams in the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico. So I'm quitting that in July to kind of do more because we have a lot more opportunities here than we did in Myrtle Beach for visiting. So I want to do more with my own dogs. But yes, you can just head to our website and put in, we have a facility request. You can put, hey, I want therapy dogs for this, or, routine visits. They will send it to all the teams that are local, and anybody that's interested can contact them. So yeah, we have a lot of people who are doing, first responder visits and things like that for sure.
It sounds like you just gave me something I have to do on my next shift with our admin chief and ask
Yeah,
permit.
therapydogs.com. That's Alliance of Therapy Dogs.
There you go. It's a great resource because again, it's not something we think about. I didn't really think about it until we've been sitting here talking. Like we do all get excited when there is a dog that we can help in any way, shape, or form, whatever that is, and it does give you that kind of calming feeling, which isn't bad to have on your shift. It's the same as if you wave to a little kid going by, like you just feel better for a few seconds. It takes you out of that, not that we feel bad or anything, but just takes you out of that higher level alert state that I'm sure your husband, from being in the military and being in the fire service, knows
Mm,
exactly about, right?
yeah. And the nice thing about being proactive about it, if you can, and we see this with even schools and things like that, is when you have that relationship with those dogs that are visiting, when a situation arises where you really need that dog because something bad really happened, it's not awkward. It's not, oh my gosh, we have to hurry and go find this, because they're already there. You already have that relationship. And so it makes it a little bit more comfortable for everybody, I think.
again, being a bad show host and researching and things, but you just reminded me that my sons in their middle school have a therapy dog that's
There
with
you
one of the
go.
counselors. And I will definitely say when they see that dog during the day, or when they get to pet it, because I don't know how much they see it, but if they get a pet, they're always, "How was your day?" That's the first thing they say.
We got
iPad,
the dog.
whatever her name is. I can't remember her name. I'm pretty bad, but like
Yeah.
it's that thing though where it's more common, so that
Mm,
if there is an issue with a student or whatever, they know that the dog is there and they can
Yep.
just kind of go hang out with them or whatever it is. It's not being introduced rapidly, like, "Hey, here's a dog, go."
Yep. Yeah. Well, and then the people in charge can focus on what they need to focus on because now they don't have to worry about that, or it gets brushed to the side because they don't have the time to think about that because they're in an emergency.
And we actually, to my school district's credit, prior to the dog starting, we got notified, and it was kind of like if your child has a fear of dogs, even if you would like to work if you would like the counselor and the dog to work with your child on a fear of dogs, we can
Oh,
do that as well.
nice.
Because again, they didn't want if a kid was, their children again with childhood trauma from animals that
Yep.
they didn't want to scare that child at school with the therapy dog who just kind of hangs out and is very chill. But they are working. I don't know if they are or not, but I thought that was another great thing that they did that kind of
Yeah.
goes to this greater good, right?
Hmm. For sure.
And I think that's what this is kind of all about is just that. And I'll get on my soapbox of like trying to make the world a better place, right? And you're able to do it through animals, which I love.
Right. I love it too. Just getting to spend time with my dog, but also helping other people.
It's so great. Monica, where can everyone find Oreo and you on the interwebs and social media with the spelling correct? Because I screwed that up. That's my fault.
I'll tell you why it's spelled that way too. It's my
Oh,
husband.
okay, here we go. I thought
No,
it was because you didn't want like copyright infringement when you
no,
became famous or anything like that. That's
no.
what I went for.
This is my husband. He wanted his fire dog to be named fire related, and he wanted to name it Tiller. And I said no because everybody names their Dalmatian Tiller when they're in the fire department.
Quint, Pierce, I've met them
Yep.
all.
Yeah, we have
Blaze.
Quint. We did name the other one Quint.
So you relented. That's good compromise. This is
Yeah,
like a marriage podcast. It's
I
good
said
compromise.
can, but I don't want it to be something routine. Of course, it's Oreo, so everyone thinks the cookie, but it is not. She's named after the battalion chief Orio Palmer from 9/11. Um, so that's kind of how she came about, named that. I don't really tell people because I don't feel like saying it 50 million times unless they're like really into, oh my gosh, the cookie, and they're hanging around for a while. Then I'm like, no, it's my husband's fault.
But again, that is like a really good little piece of tradition that you're able to kind of slide in there and respect and service, which we all talk about in the fire service, brotherhood and never
Mm,
forget. And these words get thrown around. And hearing that is just one more reason to be like, yes, this is why this is working. You're doing
yeah.
it for the right reasons. You don't
Well,
need,
I think 9/11 was such a big point. I mean, he always wanted to be a firefighter, but I think we were in seventh grade when that happened. And so that was a really big push for him to want to do that. And so I think it makes him a little sad to know that like people getting into the service now don't, weren't alive then.
yes,
Um,
it
and
is
so
new.
all the kids now don't really know about it. And so it allows him to be able to, when he's doing things with her, open up that discussion.
Yeah,
Um,
especially as a firefighter. Like that's just a
mhm,
great little add in to the bonus of having Oreo the fire dog there, but then why Oreo was named this and why this is important. And especially too when you're so far away from where it actually happened and you have even working with little kids now that want to be firefighters, that's one of
mhm.
those things that we can continue on the kind of legacy of them. So
Yep.
that's very cool. I did not know that. And now I'm like, this is so right in so many ways.
Yep.
So
So
where can
that
everybody find you at?
we are at the Hero Dogs on Instagram. Um, Periods between the Hero Dogs, and then that's the same on Facebook, and then on TikTok we are the Hero dot Dogs. Um, and I don't think we're too active. We do have a YouTube, but we're not super active on it. So
I totally understand how all of that goes with all of the pages and the dots and the
well, so many.
slashes and like it's a,
Generally, if you just look up the Hero Dogs, we pop up. So
it's an easy way to do it. Go to the Google machine, type in the Hero Dogs, Oreo spelled Orio, right?
yep, yep.
You'll find them. No worries at all. Monica, I can't thank you enough for your time today. This has been great. I'm
Yeah.
so excited. And we got to have Orio on. She is the first non-human on the Size Up podcast. So
And of
maybe even
course,
on
you
National
had to be a
Fire
little
Radio.
crazy today.
I don't think there's been a dog on National Fire Radio yet. Jeremy will probably steer me wrong, but 300 and something episodes, and I don't remember a dog being on. So I got him on that end of it.
Too
So
fun.
are you ready for the finish up of every Size Up episode, the Size Up 10 quick questions that never go quick?
Sure, let's do it.
I love it. Someday someone's going to say no, and I'm going to be like, oh, I don't know what to do now. Okay, we'll just end the podcast. You'll be the only person to never do it because you said no. All right, number 1, beach or mountains?
Beach, for sure. Hence why
How
we
about?
moved to Myrtle Beach.
That does make sense. Number 2, a night out or a night in?
Oh, that's a hard one. I would say just my lifestyle, probably more of a night in, but I do enjoy a good night out.
There's nothing wrong with that. How about a movie everybody needs to watch?
Oh gosh. This is terrible. I'm gonna go with 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, that's so terrible. The animated or the live action?
I mean, the animated is an original, but I do really enjoy the live action.
And live
there's
action.
actually liver Dalmatians in it too. If you watch really closely, some of them have the brown spots.
Oh, I'll have to watch closer. Oh, now, and number 2 is coming out soon too. So
No.
I'm a big Disney geek, so I know all these things. So just don't let everyone know that. Like, I'm not super Disney geek, but I'm
I'm
goes
all about
along.
the animal ones.
No, really? Like, I would have never guessed. My son played Flounder in the school play, so there you go. All right, here. This could be the hardest question I ask. Is you're on a cross country road trip. Who is your celebrity co-pilot, living or dead?
My celebrity co-pilot. I would have to say right now we'll go with a living, and I'd probably say Emma Stone because she cracks me up, and I think that would be fun. She got to be Cruella, so
she did get to be Cruella. My wife would be like, "Yep, Pip would go with Emma Stone too, probably for separate reasons, but definitely one of my favorite actresses out there." So it's just we can move on from that question. But your husband and I clearly have a lot in common, so there we go. Do you make your bed every day?
No, my husband does.
Good for him. Win. I love it. How about
he's always, I forget what they say. Like, I forget how he says it. You start every day on a good day if you make your bed. I don't know.
You get something accomplished every day if you make your bed. You can say, I accomplished that. That's 100% it. Do you know how many? So obviously in a fire service podcast, I interview more men than women as much as I try to keep it all is even, but so many men are like, my wife does it. I'm like, man, that's like a cop out. So it's a cop out for you too. You should be doing it.
Oh, totally.
I do it. My wife does
laundry too, because I'm not folding your laundry a special way. If you want it, then you do the laundry. He helps so much.
So now you and my wife would get along really well because let's just say I do my own laundry and that's the way it goes. So marriage is all about compromise. This isn't a marriage podcast, but it really is about compromise. And sometimes that means you do your own laundry. Yep. So that's what it comes down to.
She does all our laundry because I was like, nope, you do.
Oh no, I make her do her own. Wait, let me go back. I don't make her.
I'm not gonna show them that.
I don't make her do her own laundry. She does her own laundry because I don't fold it right, and I'm like, well, that's on you, sister.
Right? Like if I'm not folding it right, then you can do it.
I don't know what's supposed to go in the dryer, what's not supposed to go in the dryer. Like it's just not happening. So compromise. That's what life is about in marriage. How about a book everyone needs to read?
A long time ago when I was in middle school, I was obsessed with The Lord of the Rings. So I would challenge everyone to try to read that because I'm surprised I read that in middle school.
I put it down very rapidly and I can't watch any of the movies. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan and I read the entire series prior to the movies.
Harry Potter.
See, it's one of those things. I feel like you're almost either or you're totally into that world and you're in, but
I enjoyed the movies, but yeah, I was a big Lord of the Rings kid.
The biggest book I've ever read cover to cover was Harry Potter.
There you go.
Which one are you taking, the highways or the back roads?
Highways. I spend a lot of time on the road, so. I got to get there quick.
Got to get there quick. How about a bucket list place to visit?
New Zealand, because of Lord of the Rings. I would love to go there.
Very nice, very nice. All right, which one are you watching? Football or football?
Football. I love
Nice.
soccer. I played it growing up, and it's my favorite, and I will definitely watch that.
I feel even worse now because you said you played soccer growing up and you mentioned running marathons and being into fitness, and we never even talked about this. So we're going to have another episode based more off of that. I even wrote it down like that I wanted to, because I've run a marathon and I'm thinking about doing another one and
Nice. Yes, for sure.
back into the running world. And I keep talking about it. I just have to do it. But it's a whole different world for a whole different podcast. So we'll get you back on to talk about that. All right. Last question. The best piece of advice you could give to your younger self?
You're not going to please everyone, so just do whatever you need to do.
I love it. It's so good.
Especially your own parents.
See, it's brave to say that too, especially when you have children. Because I think about that with my kids and some of the things that I'm like, why aren't you doing this? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I got to do it for yourself, right?
Exactly. That's why I try to just say, you guys do what you're going to do. And as long as you're a good person, I will love it.
That is the way to go. And that is a great way to end this podcast. That's why I love asking that question, because like people give this amazing advice that we can just kind of go off on such a high note and think about for a while. So Monica, Orio, I cannot thank you enough for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
This could be one of the most educational episodes of the Size Up since I started, where I've learned so much more about an area that I kind of thought I knew a little bit about, but definitely didn't know much about. So thank you for the education, and keep doing what you're doing out there. And if there's any way we can help, we're in.
Cool. Well, thank you.
So as always, thank you all for listening. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to my brother Lenny from Notorious Fire. He's like our #1 sponsor right now, I guess, for the things that he's helping us out on the back end. So I just want to give that shout out before I sign off. And until next time, this is Pip for the Size Up by National Fire Radio, where what you do off the job matters.
National Fire Radio.